Higher Expectations is an advanced technology search firm providing comprehensive employment and staffing solutions for our clients. From the beginning, we have been committed to honesty, ethics, and exceeding our clients' expectations. Contact Higher Expectations today.
Well, there we are. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to Higher Expectations Live, where our sole purpose is to try and educate the employers, the candidates, the workforce on what's happening in technology and how we might be able to help you improve your processes, procedures, or find some new great talent. And I'm super excited that we have a guest today that's able to join us that's been in many of the roles, from a technician to a hiring manager at not one but several large companies. And so you're going to get, the tactical, the strategic, and how he has been handling the heavy lifting that comes with being a hiring manager. And you're going to get to see sometimes it takes a toll on us and our bodies. So without any further ado, he's in the green room right now. We're here in the broadcast studios of Higher Expectations, but let me bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome Mr. Scott Jobe. So, Scott, there he is.
Hey, Peter.
There we are. All right. That's him. And look at the heavy lifting and what has happened to his body because of all of the hard work he's been doing.
It does take a toll at times.
Yeah, it's rough, isn't it?
It certainly can be.
Scott, I wanted to bring you on to help educate and just demonstrate through the kind of work that you're doing as it comes to technical hiring. I mean, hiring in general is a science, but in the technical world, it's different. And I'd love for you to describe maybe your background in technology, and then we can kind of get to what's been happening with you pre-pandemic, pandemic, and now. So tell us a little bit about your background and what's been going on.
Okay, yeah, we'll start there. So it's hard to believe that it's approaching 25 years in technology, and I sit back and I think about the various roles I've had, and it's hard to believe that kind of time has gone by already. But my IT career actually started in the healthcare industry, where I worked for a company that staffed and managed emergency rooms. And so I was leading a team of engineers in this healthcare company, and we were doing all the day-to-day stuff. We were doing all the general maintenance of what comes with a normal data center, email applications, core products and processes. So it was interesting. Cut my teeth in technology in that environment. But through that experience, I really learned that the consulting side was more of where I wanted to go. And I found it by having to interview the various different departments around some of the application needs that they had. And I'm like, well, shoot, there's these technology partners out there that do this day to day. I kind of think I'd like to do that. And so I left that role and joined two different partners where I sold technology solutions. And this was at the early days of, for those that might know, VMware. And so I did some work, selling and consulting on VMware and IBM servers and things of that sort. Did that for about 5 years, and then I actually joined VMware, where I stayed there for almost a decade. And I ran, I was on several different teams, again covering healthcare, covering enterprise customers, and then I moved into the state, local, and education market. I became a leader in the state, local, and education team, and ended up running the entire state, local, and education engineering team. And then about 2 years ago, I chose to leave VMware and joined Pure Storage as the area vice president for public sector. So now, not only do I have the state, local, and education team, I actually have all the federal teams as well. So I've kind of specialized over the last 7-8 years specifically in that SLED and public sector arena.
Beautiful, beautiful. So Scott, tell me, you guys were hiring before, the pandemic, right?
We were, absolutely.
And there wasn't as great a deal as there was as we hit this pandemic. So maybe describe a little bit about what your hiring looked like or any challenges you faced. And then obviously we can discuss what the pandemic did and how you guys dealt with it.
Sure. So let me start by saying that, the hiring process in general is critical to, it's the number one thing in my mind that a leader can do to help impact their team. So if the goal of a leader is to maximize the performance of their team, then hiring should be one of the top things that they do in order to achieve that, bringing new talent in. But that means that you don't just, throw a candidate out there and have them speak with a number of people and hope that those people can interview appropriately, and pull out the things that you're looking for that are important. So you really need a pretty thorough hiring process. And that process should be aligned with things like company values and culture. And so we spent a great deal amount of time doing just that, building a behavioral focused hiring process for engineers that was tied to company values. And because of that, we drove consistency in the process so that we knew when we had somebody talk to our candidates about being, action oriented or customer first, that we were always going to have a very consistent approach in that, so we can evaluate candidates appropriately. We even went as far as having the leadership team read a book called The Effective Hiring Manager by Mark Horstman, who is one of the folks that leads Manager Tools podcast, just as a frame of reference, because again, you really have to be a bit of a student of the hiring process in order to get the right outcomes that you're looking for. So we started with that. We built the foundation, we gained consistency. And from that point on, it was a matter of teaching the engineers that were helping us through this interview process how to do the appropriate interview. And once we got through that, it became very easy to identify not only the best talent, but the ones that would fit culturally and the ones that would fit with alignment to our values.
Here's what I love, Scott, because it's not intuitive to every organization. What I'm hearing is you took time to train your other staff and managers on how to interview. Many
Yes.
times in organizations, that's an HR function. Don't say the 7 words or the 7 questions. And behavioral interviewing, what a great concept. But you took it upon yourself to make sure the training was done so you knew the outcome and that the final candidate would have been screened appropriately through the process, from your staff, technicians to
Yes.
you with the final, and how important culture was, because you can train technology. Am I right?
You can absolutely train technology. You can't train passion.
Right.
So while we were going through this process, our recruiting team was also interested in building this. So we did this entire workshop in conjunction with the recruiting team, which allowed us then to again get more consistency. So you think about it, when you're doing a hiring process, it starts at the very beginning. There's the intake call. And this might be a little off track, but bear with me here. So the intake call is one of those things where if you're a hiring manager and you're looking for somebody, the first thing you should be doing is working with the most interested parties, understanding what qualities they really need, because every sales territory is different. My state, local, and education territories range from very dense areas up in the Northeast to very broad geographic territories in the Midwest, to a smattering of both out in the West. So you have to understand what qualities you need. Highly technical? Do you need sales focused? Do you need better business outcomes? What are you looking for in particular? And that alignment with the recruiting team through that process, and then building it into the hiring program around the behavioral analysis, just it made the process so much easier and so much quicker to stand up.
Beautiful. The part that I love is that you're bringing the recruiting team in to try and understand the function of the job and the technology. So when they go to their database and we need a engineer, what are the skills that engineer has to have before we even present them to your team, right?
100%. That's exactly it.
So let's talk a little bit about, all of those things led up to your hiring in 2019.
Yes.
And then March of 2020 happened.
Yep.
And so that was a successful process. You've got all your people educated. And how did this global shutdown affect you guys in hiring? Or, let me hear about that first. And
sure.
Let me also tell the audience, if you have some thoughts, questions, please put them in the comments. We'll try and display them on the screen or have Scott address them if we can.
So I probably should have collected this information before I hopped on the call here, but I want to say that since I'm just going to go back to February of 2020 till now, which was the beginning of our fiscal. So, roughly, 18 months. I believe that we have onboarded roughly 11 to 12 engineers. Okay. So we have hired through the pandemic consistently. Okay. And the great thing is that based on everything we just talked about, the building of an actual consistent and reliable hiring program, the only thing that really changed is that we weren't face-to-face. So to just kind of walk you through a little bit. So, we have 5 company values. They're on my whiteboard over here: persistence, creativity, teamwork, ownership, and customer first. Okay. So those are categories inside of our hiring process. And we take the time to do a bunch of individual interviews, check their technical depth, things of that sort, and assess across those 5 dimensions. But our capstone is a presentation-based interview that then takes one more shot at those behavioral qualities. And the panel interview takes place across about 4 or 5 individuals at the team. So we ask the candidates to present on something they know. This should be something that they are technically proficient at. It should be an absolute no-brainer. It's to demonstrate when they're at their best, give me that presentation. And so it should be the most comfortable. They should, talk about business outcomes. They should be able to nail this. The second one is one that we assign based on one of our products. Sure. And we give them homework. We give them a week to prepare. It's not a stump the chump kind of event. This is, it's tough enough presenting to, a room full of people that are more knowledgeable than you in a certain area. But it's really just meant to kind of gauge how they assimilate and drive the conversation when they aren't necessarily the expert. And then we wrap it up with, more behavioral questions. And then we finally give them a chance to ask us those questions. So the thing about it is that because our process was consistent, nothing changed. We've been able to onboard some absolutely fantastic people because in that process, we are flushing out all of the values that we're actually looking for. And they've come on board and they've ramped quickly. And we've had, a great amount of time, seeing them flourish in a pretty challenging environment, to say the least. But so that, end result is that the only thing that's changed is the fact that we're not face to face. Yeah.
Was that a huge paradigm to overcome when everything went virtual and on screens, as opposed to having them come in and get to shake hands and meet the team and go the whiteboard exercises, things of that nature?
It's a little awkward. Yeah, it's a little awkward. I would say that you need to take a little bit more time trying to get to know them, because you can pick up on visual cues if you're with somebody. The watch they're wearing, the shoes they're wearing. You can come up with a conversation about something, and when you're only in kind of this mode, across a screen, you have to find ways to generate that. But honestly, it's a great way to tell how good are they at just generating conversations as well. I mean, the roles that we're in are selling roles. These are sales engineering roles. And so they need to be able to create conversations. So you can often tell pretty quickly, are they too deeply technical where they like the back office operations, or are they really more that sales interaction kind of SE that likes to get in and have conversations and get to know you?
So I'm hearing some great consistency based on processes and procedures you had in place prior to the pandemic. So it was a little bit of a learning curve, but not a huge hiccup, and you were still able to go through that. Now, as we take a look at what we're trying to call the post-pandemic, or as I like to refer to it, the Hunger Games. So, how are you and your team and Pure Storage handling keeping people? Because from a technology standpoint, it's whoever's got the biggest checkbook wins, and people hunkered down. I want to stay. I feel secure, but now things are opening up, and my friend just got a great job at an additional 10K or 30K or whatever K.
Sure.
How do you keep your people?
I don't want to make it sound too simple, but when you align personal values with company values, you build a culture, and that culture can persist throughout times of even increased wages, because the uncertainty that presents itself by changing companies, that stuff's hard. I have lost people because they have just been, just phenomenal offers. Now whether they can realize all the benefits of those offers that they were given becomes the question, but the offers look fantastic on paper. So sure, that happens. But, being in public sector, state, local education, the federal government, the people that sell into this space usually have some sort of background that's tied to public service, and they take it pretty seriously. Yeah. And so, we have an opportunity through this, through the hiring process, to understand their why. And I think many people have listened to Simon Sinek's Start With Why TED Talk that's just radically famous. But many people, I don't know if many people know that Simon also has a consulting company, and he has, I've gone through that, a training session where they helped us form our own personal why. And this was hugely beneficial because it gets to the heart of, well, why do you do things? And I am always intrigued about when somebody's coming to me looking for a role, why this role, why now, why this company? And you get a series of standard answers, but from there you can generally understand, are they running from something, or are they running to something? And those that are running to something are usually going to perform a whole lot better than those running from. But understanding that personal why is in my mind, really, really valuable. So for me, my why is to share my time and experiences and encouragement so that everyone can find their best potential. That's my personal why. That came out of the session that I did with Simon Sinek's consulting company. And I encourage everyone to do something similar, to find out why they do what they do. Because then when it comes to searching for jobs, when it comes, to the actual interview process, you can come in and you as a candidate can make sure that you're aligned to what the company is saying, just as I can ensure that you're aligned to what I need as well.
Yeah, I love that. So, Scott, let's do two things here. How how do you guys, so when you lose someone with life-changing money, that's just life-changing money. I mean, when
Yes.
it's 20, 30, 50K more, God bless you, good luck, have a nice day. That's
Yep.
life-changing. But when you have a candidate that has multiple offers,
Mm-hmm.
how do you personally, how do you school your team on how to close that candidate? How do you make it so you're the winner of this talent competition?
It's a fantastic question. So, Pure is like many Silicon Valley based companies. We are very competitive when it comes to wages.
Yeah.
Our on target earnings package is very, very competitive, and then all of the other benefits that come with it, from medical and others, really round things out. So if we come across somebody that's looking at a couple different roles, the only way that I found that you can close is to drive back to the why. Well, why is that other one interesting to you? Let's just have a conversation. I can switch into that consultative mode. Sure, I want this person on my team. But when it comes to career choices and where you're going to work, it can have a profound impact on your own physical and mental health if you choose wrong.
Yeah.
And so what I can offer is the culture. I can offer, a very consistent, a very consistent experience that with a management team that's dedicated to a people first and an HR team that backs that up. I can go through and I can talk about all those things that align to what I heard through the interview process. So I kind of replay back what they've said about what's important to them, and I make sure that we're aligned, and then we go from there. So we've been able to overcome 10, 15. I even was able to overcome a 20K difference in OTE.
Wow.
Through that kind of alignment, because different organizations have different personalities and culture, and that money, although it sounds like it's a lot, if you're able to overachieve on your quota in a role like this and you hit your accelerators, that 20,000 goes away in a heartbeat, and Pure does a very good job of having a very simple comp plan, where the accelerators for the SEs are the exact same as the accelerators for the AEs. So we're not second class citizens, and all these little things add up to a different environment for engineers than what you see in a lot of tech companies right now.
Well, and the thing I think I'm hearing too, Scott, and correct me if I'm wrong, that offer, the invite to join your company doesn't happen at the exit when they leave your office after the last interview. That's a courting process that started from the first initial phone call of, we're touching base with you to invite you to interview. We still want to answer those questions through the whole interview process. Why are you in our office is the why question. And so let's make sure we visit that why at the first interview and the last interview. And then it doesn't matter whether Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, Amazon, all the big boys are flashing money at them. Are they addressing your why? Because you did.
That you hit the nail on the head. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw this out because apparently there's some issues. If anybody wanted to comment on Facebook, go here to StreamYard and you can put some comments, questions real quick. I'm going to do the same thing very quickly with LinkedIn. And then we'll see if there are any other questions, or maybe you can give potential recommendations to hiring managers, and what would candidates, especially since they've got a hiring manager in front of them, what would candidates, what advice would you give them if they're not only applying for your positions, but if they're applying for others?
Let's start with the candidates. So there's a couple things that stand out to me. So in the Effective Hiring Manager book, you take away. I mean, any leader should be able to take away a number of different things from different sources they get. So it doesn't mean that we follow this book to the letter. There's things that we've modified for our particular benefit, but in the book it talks about avoiding confirmation bias and looking for the reason why not to hire, not looking for the reason why you should hire, because it's very easy to make that. So a personable candidate, you get off on the right foot and things look really, really good, but the hard work is still yet to come. So from a candidate standpoint, one of the most common things that I see is usually as the VP, by the time they get to me, they've gone through a number of interviews at this point. And one of the most common mistakes they make is when I ask them, what questions do you have for me? Their answer is, I've had all my questions answered by everybody else prior to this. And I'm like, yeah, you would think that you would like to triangulate answers across. So just like I'm doing a consistent hiring process and making sure we're asking the same questions and evaluating consistently, I would expect the candidates to be doing a similar process to make sure that they're not just listening with happy ears and they're actually getting the right things that they want back.
So you bring up an awesome point. I want to hit this real quick before I let you have the floor to pontificate on why all the people need to come to your company. Scott, you brought up something that was a huge issue with a technical recruiting group that I belong to. And the candidates are just being beaten over the head with 4, 5, 6, 9 interviews.
Yes.
Do you find that necessary to find the talent you need?
9, no. We try to reduce it to 6 interviews, 5 that are individual, and then the panel where we expose them to a larger group all at one time. I do find that you have to be that thorough. And if you're not, then you run the risk of having a false positive. And a false positive is actually more impactful to your business than a false negative. Okay. So if I miss on a good candidate because maybe they were a little bit off in the interview process, maybe they were a little distracted, maybe we weren't as clear as we could be on our questions, that is still less impactful to the business than hiring the wrong person and having a false positive. So I do find that a thorough process is important, but if the candidate can't see that there's a structure, then to me, that would be a red flag for the candidate. If it's just, hey, talk to this person, you get to the interview and there feels like there's no structure. They're asking all these generic questions that don't really matter. I would be, our alarm bells would be going off in my head. But I think a candidate would be able to differentiate between a structured interview process and one that's just completely free form across that many people. If it's free form across that many people, oftentimes it's because they're ill prepared. But we can do it in about 6 and really get to the heart of what we're looking for.
And when you take a look at that, the 6 interviews total, you're looking at roughly 6 hours of that individual's time, right? Sometimes combined or split up under a number of different days, or
yeah, exactly. The capstone is a 90-minute event, so a little bit more. But yeah, absolutely.
And that initial interview, so I know certainly how I'd handle it when I have my premier clients. Is it worth it to you for the career that you want and the job that you want to spend? And if we call it 6 interviews, so be it. But if you've got an offer after 2 interviews or 3 interviews at XYZ company, then you have to make that decision. What is your why? And that's
What is your why?
that's how I address it when I'm representing my clients. Is it about the money, or is it about the time spent, or are you truly looking for a new opportunity, or are you just looking for some cash?
That you hit, and there's going to be times where people just want the cash, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
there are other times, as long as they say that. Yep. But we try to be very upfront with the candidates at the beginning of what our process is. We try not to hide anything, or we just try to provide a lot of clarity on what our expectations are and what the process will look like, so nobody's surprised by anything.
Okay. All right, my friend, I'm going to allow you to promote a little bit. It's my understanding you do have some opportunities. And
I do.
So what would a successful candidate look like for you? And if they come to, should they expect?
You broke up a little bit, but I think I know you're going. So hopefully you can hear me. Okay.
Gotcha.
I do have roles in both the state, local, and education side of the business and the federal business right now for say the covering the Army and covering the intelligence community as well. Those can be found at that site. There's a button near the bottom that says view roles, and you can go look at what roles exist, whether it's in public sector or one of our other segments like enterprise or commercial. Pure Storage is a disruptor. We disrupted the storage environment by bringing an all-flash array to the market, and we've differentiated our products over the years by bringing some incredible products that cover file and object and now containers into the market with a hybrid cloud mix that is really second to none, which is why we sit in the upper right-hand corner of the Gartner Magic Quadrant at this point for primary storage arrays. So we are a disruptive storage environment with a fast-growing team of people that are experienced in what they do, and the differentiation is the people we work with and how we go about it. So things like culture and a people-first mentality is something that's cornerstone to what we believe, and that's the kind of people I'm looking for. I want people that want to not only be at Pure, but want to be on the team because our whys align. And when we find that, we can retain them. And if that's somebody that's listening to this, take a look at that link, and happy to talk to you in more detail.
Scott, I hear so many times, well, I submitted my resume, but it'll just be lost in the black hole. How does that, how do you guys handle it? Is it the recruiters? Mm-hmm. Do the recruiters just send batches over to hiring managers? How does that get, how do they not get lost in the black hole?
We have a great recruiting team. And again, by starting early with the intake call and setting expectations about what we're looking for, we can screen, candidates fairly quickly. But each of the managers on my team is expected to go through and look at all of the candidates that are coming in the queue, just in case there's something about that background that stands out to them, because it doesn't always come across on a piece of paper, who that person really is. But once you're in technology long enough, you understand different organizations or things that have happened over time that could make an impact. And if you see that on a resume, then the managers can pull that out and say, regardless of our intake call, I want to talk to that candidate. So I expect my leadership team to take personal ownership and go through each of those candidates as well.
Wow. So, Scott, this has been absolutely remarkable.
I can't believe it's been 34 minutes already. Where'd that go?
The thing that blows me away is my experience in 30 years of recruiting. Managers don't do that. If they don't see XYZ acronym, throw them out. It's not, they never look beyond that. So, well done.
We're always looking for diversity, and you have to dig deeper. You have to do your own LinkedIn searches. I mean, you have to be building your own bench. I mean, these are things that you can't just put on recruiters. You have to take personal ownership for. Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough. Audience, this is what we're here for, is to bring quality, and I can see some hands getting raised. And Scott, I think you might get a call back to the green room. We'll see what else we have.
Happy to.
We'll
Would
see if
love to
we
join.
can bring you on and help educate the rest of the technical interviewing community. So
This has been fun. Thank you.
I thank you very much. This has been Scott here, and here are his positions. And you guys, thanks so much. This is just another live from Higher Expectations. And let's see if we can go change the technical hiring community. Thanks
Sounds
so
good.
much,
Thanks,
Scott.
Peter.
I really appreciate it,
Take care.
buddy. Everybody, that's what we have for you today. Check in with us. We'll have another guest by the end of the month. And let's see if we can change your company. And if you need any help with that, you know where we are. Love to chat with you about your situation. Thanks so much. This is Higher Expectations Live. Good afternoon, everyone.